And my concern is they're within the caucus, they have the progressive, you have the progressive, and then you have more of the conservative Democratic Party, Democrats. And now, like your AOC and your Jasmine Crockett's versus like the old school Democrats and more senior Democrats, I feel like there's a disconnect and it's confusion and they don't have a message.
They don't. And this is where there's parties within the party.
Correct.
And what we know is MAGA is the ultra right. And we know like there's the super liberal part. But most Americans are not on, either side. They're more of a moderate, because I don't believe, for me as a Democrat, I do not believe that everything that we do is right. There are some conservative values that bring balance, because we have to understand we live in a very big nation. There's a lot of people. We all come from different backgrounds, and we have to honor all of that, and we have to have a well-balanced government. So for me, like that, for the AOCs or for the Marjorie Taylor Greens, it's like, hey, help bring America back towards the center to where we can agree. We don't have to have so much division. But I think within the Democratic Party, it's like everybody needs to get on message. We need to be able to support the same ideas as Democrats, and understanding where is the majority of Democrats at, and start sending that strong message. Because I think what the Democratic Party has done very poorly is that they have pushed certain agendas where it's a very small portion of the population, and they've just pushed that agenda, and they're not listening to the overall party. And I think that honestly, there's some people in Congress that just need to retire. It's time to go. And then there's other people that are just being too divisive. And guess what? It's time for you to go. And so I think that we need to elect the right leaders and start getting the right message. Stop talking at us and start understanding where we're coming from, and start sending the right message. Because honestly, why am I not hearing more Democrats talk about what everyday Americans are talking about today at their dinner table?
Yes.
Like for me, in my family, it's about immigration.
Yep. That's about immigration, though, honestly. It's for everyone. That's the thing that people don't understand. Immigration is for everyone. And I think the reason why the Republicans did win is, even if it sounds crazy what they're talking about, what they're doing, there is a plan. And the fact that the Democrats have kicked this can down the road for so long, put together a plan. Like, we know we have an issue with childcare. It is obscene. The average childcare in my community is $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month. That's our mortgage in some places. And then you have senior care, which is a major issue, because the middle class now is being sandwiched by children who are still at home playing video games. Not all kids, but some kids are still at home playing video games, or just are still living at home and haven't really gotten their independence. Like, I don't know how you are, but my generation, we left the house. Some of us went to college. The ones who didn't went to trade school, but we left the house at like 21, 20. Now our kids are staying with their parents, and they could be working professionals, college educated, well into their late 20s, because they're not starting their families until later, meeting people later. Everything's later. So it's not uncommon for people to still be at home. And then you have your parents who are living longer. So they're in a sandwich, and it's like you're paying for your bills, then you're trying to help your parents. They're ailing and getting older and more senior. And then you have your kids as well. You're trying to help them. But I feel that senior care is an issue. I have 3 friends now, and they pay full-time salaries. Granted, their financial situation is different than most. They pay full-time salaries for live-in care, $60,000 a year, just for people to help help offset and take care of their parents. For me, in a lot of communities, people have au pairs, where they go through their home country. They go to their home country and they apply for a visa to come and be an au pair for a year or 2 years. My thing is, why can't you do the same thing for childcare, for LPNs, and for senior care? So we have a need, and then if you have people coming to the country and they have the labor, why not leverage that so that people coming to the country, they have a pathway to citizenship, they have a job, you know where they are, and you giving them opportunity. Because when I talked to, I think Red Balloon last week when I did the podcast with the gentleman from Red Balloon, he said they have 8 million jobs. We have so many jobs available now, and you don't have the labor. And that is an issue. So there's a way to make immigration work. I think people are just tired of hearing the complaining. And I'm a person that I can't stand complaining. Like, what's the action? What's the solution? I don't want to hear you complain. But I feel like the Democrats do that all the time. Like, I don't want to hear about democracy. I don't want to hear about transgender. I don't want to hear, I mean, not saying that I don't hear about it like it's not valid what people say and their passions and their feelings and their emotion. I'm not saying that, but people want solutions for immediate things now in their life. Housing,
Absolutely.
immigration, and medical bills. I think those are the three things. And get out of what are they doing? I don't care what they're doing. What are you going to do?
Well, I think also too, it's looking at what are some of the conservative values too that do work that we can incorporate, right? But we can say we can do it better than you instead of having two different paths. You know, what's funny is that us as Americans and immigrants, we all want the same thing. We all want to live a safe life. We all want to make money. We all want to give opportunity to our children. You know, we want to live in peace. We all want to have fun. Right? We all want the same thing.
The same thing.
But we have two political systems that take two very different paths. So if Republicans say we're going to go right, Democrats are going to say, no, we're going to go left. And, hey, what if the left, or, you know, what if the left was a better path? Why can't Republicans say, you know what, I see value in that, but I think I can do it better than you can.
Yeah.
And same thing for Democrats. You know, I remember when Hillary Clinton was running for president, and there was that whole debate whether a wall or no wall. And for me, I was saying, look, what is the best strategy? I think you need both, to be honest with you, in certain parts of the border. You know, being a police officer on the border state of Arizona, you know, you could see the problems. We ran into those problems. We knew the humanitarian crisis that was happening there at the border. So you need to take the appropriate action, but it doesn't have to be one option or the other. It could be both. And that's where the messaging, I think, got lost. Just thinking about the wall. Republicans were saying a wall. Democrats were saying, no, we're going to use technology. And it's like, well, why couldn't you have come up with a strategy that incorporates both?
And
then so basic, come up with a solution for immigration.
Right. But it's so big. Like, we are literally giving the Democrats their playbook to win. But I'm like, why can't they do it? Like, we already know AOC, I think the gentleman who won in the mayoral candidate campaign in New York, Zohan, I think is his name.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, he's not going to, I would be hard pressed, because anytime when you start a conversation where you don't want police officers, and I'm just thinking to myself, sensible people on the page, not in the margins, right? But on the page, focus on the people on the page. If you focus on the people on the page like us, you can win. But I don't know, for whatever reason, the Democrats cannot do that. They have to go anti-Trump, MAGA, it's just, I just don't know why they just can't focus on a priority. And it's like they let I don't want to say big mouths, because they let the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders, like, they're Bernie Sanders to me. I'm like, Bernie, I get that you want universal health care. I lived in London before, and people who lived in London who had universal health care, they hated it. Not everyone, but there were a lot of people who hated it because they had to wait years to get surgery. And we, in my day job, I do communications, we worked on the National Health Service Corps contract. And they were short, and the U.S. is short 100,000 primary care physicians. So how are you going to do universal health care when you don't even have enough physicians to do universal health care? And this is the kind of stuff that you can tell is the lack of maturity and experience. Like I learned so much from you just about law enforcement, where because I've worked with so many government agencies, I learned so much. And some of these things are just talking points, but how do you implement them? Right? Like,
Mhm.
how do you get healthcare that's going to be balanced when you have that much of a shortage of physicians? How about immigration for people who are in other countries? There are people now who are in the US who are from Cuba, who are from Africa, who are trained healthcare professionals, but they cannot work in the US.
Yep.
And so that's something an opening for immigration for people, because we need medical professionals. So it's just
Well,
so much
it's all
opportunity.
campaign slogans. That's what it is. It's not necessarily the reality of the situation. Like,
Correct.
do I believe in universal healthcare? Absolutely. I believe that, the two most difficult times of your life will be at birth and at death. And those are the
True.
things that all of us have in common. And I don't think that someone should lose their life simply because they don't have accessibility to medical treatment. I don't think that you can put a price tag on anybody's life.
I agree.
But my fundamental belief, though, is that in order to get to universal health care, is we need, exactly like what you said, we need more physicians. Because I can pass a law and say, guess what? All of you have health care now, but we can't sustain it. It's not
Correct.
true. It's not accessibility. It's a cloak of saying we gave you access. You didn't give us access to anything if we don't have enough doctors.
Right.
So I think the campaign slogan, when we think about this, is, again, understanding your demographics. If I want to go after the votes of the healthcare industry, then I should understand what the healthcare industry needs, and I should be pushing legislative that creates more funding opportunities for us to be able to, shorten that gap of physicians that we need in this country, or nurses that we need in this country, or home health care workers that we need in this country. That's what we should be focused on, and just saying, I gave you all insurance.
Right.
Thank you, but that does something for me.
That doesn't, and the thing is, for me, I'm like, how amazing would that be, though, to say in the next 5 years of my campaign, in my next 4 years of my presidency, I will make sure to work with the head of Health and Human Services so we can train 500,000 new physicians to come into and then we can be making, that's the kind of stuff that I feel like the Democrats, I'm like, why are you missing this? We don't care about just the fancy universal health care for everyone. And then people are like, well, hell, I gotta wait 2 years just to get my annual exam, my annual physical, because my doctor is overwhelmed. So, so these are the kind of things. But if you've always been in politics and you never ran a business, you don't know organizational infrastructure, how can you really do that? Versus having someone like you be over Department of Justice, right? Or having someone like me, I don't want to get in politics, like having people who really know, like ALC, she was a bartender and they groomed her to be a congresswoman. But if she was a business owner, I think it would be completely different. And I think it's great to be a civil servant, but I think now we have a lot of problems. And I think we need people who have experience solving problems, whether that's a business owner, whether that's the head of Department of Education should actually be a teacher, like someone who can actually solve problems. And I'm not so sure that people who just do civil service and the people that we have now in Congress and Senate have the bandwidth, the capacity, and the knowledge and the capability to solve problems. I think you have to, it's almost like when I train people on business, I always tell people, I say, it's the difference between a professor telling you and training you based on theory and based on a textbook, versus when you get into a meeting, how to be able to shift and listen to your customers and apply the appropriate tactics and strategy for your clients, completely different. And I think that's what's happening in politics. I think now the stakes are higher. People are smarter, especially with the internet. You just have to, we need better leaders.
We do. But that's the problem with politics right now, is that we're so polarized. And
True.
it's honestly, it's not even about who's the best person that's qualified to be in these positions. It's all about electability. It's all about how much money can I raise in order to push my message across.
You
And
think
so,
it's still like that though? You think it's going to be like that in the next 2 years?
absolutely. I mean, when you look at it, again, the political parties are going to push candidates that they think have the ability to win, or what story they can spin. A congressional seat takes millions of dollars. So, in order to win. And so when you think about that, who are they pumping money into? They're pumping money into somebody that they believe that can push their narrative or that they can control. And that's of both political parties. But that's just that's their system of politics.
Yeah. There was someone who they were like, oh, she'd be great. I'm not going to mention her name. Oh, she'd be great for president. And I was like, she's not attractive enough. And then people were looking
exactly.
like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I'm like, seriously, she's not attractive enough.
Yeah.
We still live in a society.
Yeah. I've run one political race in my life. And
really,
the one thing I said in a debate is, don't hire me because you think, hire me because you know that I'm the best qualified, but don't elect me because of the fact that I'm a good fundraiser. I'm like, if you want a good fundraiser, you can go ahead and elect my two people that are on stage with me. Because honestly, that's what it's about. That's what the media tracks. How much money did you raise?
True.
And so when you think about someone, like for myself, I didn't grow up in wealth. I don't know any wealthy people, right? Over time, yes, I will have developed those relationships. But again, for the common person, how do you get access to those people that say, like the Elon Musk that say, hey, I'm going to write you a $250 million check because I want you to be president? Those are very difficult hurdles. That's the reason why politics is just so dirty. It's really nasty. It's about the people that have. And, I at times lose hope in our political system, but then there's times where it's like, you got to keep pushing forward. You got to, bring awareness, and you got to get people to vote. We need more people to be involved. I don't care whether you're a Democrat, independent, just show up and vote, right? Yeah. Vote, because elections have consequences. And if you don't like what's happening right now, then do something about it. Run for office, get people to vote, you vote yourself. And then at the end of the day, we're going to determine whether or not, the wealth gap is going to just continue to increase, or as a society, we're going to be able to uplift each other and live the lives that we all want, which is we all want the same thing.
Well, I think that's fantastic. I'm as we wrap up these last like 5 minutes, because we could go on forever. I feel that it's changing. I think the Elon Musk, I forgot where it was in the Midwest, but he put that money behind that candidate. I'm not going to say who the candidate's name is. And it didn't make a difference.
It didn't.
It didn't make a difference. I think with small donations, I think people, if we can get past the division, which is, okay, what 3 things are most valuable to you? Not becoming a single issue voter, but what 3 things are most valuable to you? It might be immigration on one hand. It might be what's happening in the LGBTQ community. It might be what's happening with housing, with education. For me, is important. That is as a parent, having a public education and getting to where I am now, I know it's not going to be the same for my child, but that is very important to me. So looking at the 3 issues that are important to you, I think that's the first place people should start. I also think a lot of the Democrats should primary Democrats. I do. I think it's time to put the old ones out who are not doing anything. I do think there's something for being seasoned and bringing value. But I think when you get to the point, nothing is status quo now. I think we need to shake things up a little bit, and we need to shake up the Democratic Party. And I think if Democrats can start speaking not anything anti-MAGA, anti-Republican, but what are your beliefs and how are you going to do it that makes sense, not just high-level stuff, but like in the details. Like I'm going to say this before we wrap up. I did some research on my own, because I could not believe that teachers make $30,000, similar to law enforcement.
Mhm.
And so when I started doing some research, and it mostly Republican states, believe it or not, teachers are lowly paid. And I say
Yeah.
lowly, like between 30 something and 40 something thousand dollars. And then in Democrats, it's a little better, but Democratic led states tend to have higher pay much more for their teachers, usually by $8,000 to $10,000 more. And then I looked at other countries where they pay, it is a privilege and an honor to be a teacher. Like, you have to get a master's degree to teach. I'm always stumped. Like, why can't teachers make $100,000? Like, to me, that we don't have a functioning society. No one becomes wealthy. No one, innovation, ideation, creation, all the Eshans are lacking if you don't have good teachers.
Mhm.
And the fact that we do not pay teachers, like, if I have one thing I'm really passionate about, it's education. And the fact that we do not pay teachers 6 figures is unbelievable to me, that they have to deal with some people's bad kids and try to teach in some of these schools is just insane. But if we can have an equitable playing field with education in this country, you could probably do away with many of the DEI initiatives, but everyone has to be educated the same. So if you have a qualified, master's degree trained, educated teacher in an inner city school, a rural school, the same caliber of teachers that you have in those schools as you have in some of the higher net worth zip codes, it is possible. And I did the research to undo this crazy debt that we have in 20 to 30 years. So it can be done, but you got to invest in teachers. And I think if we could get teachers right, it's going to take some time, but I am hopeful, because I think this Generation Z is tired of a lot of stuff, but the Democrats have really got to get their stuff together. And if we don't, I'm not so sure they're going to win the midterms. I think they're going to.
I agree. I think, go into education. I think when we look at what's wrong with our education system is that there's a couple things. One, I would say equity in teaching. There is no equity in being a learner in our education system, because our education system is built off the principles of, the manufacturing industry, right? We have equality, right? And teaching kids the same way. But we know as adults, I learn differently.
Correct.
Right? You may learn different from me, but our education system tends to teach people in the same way. That's not equity. But when we look at teachers, even if I were to pay a teacher $100,000, I don't think it's necessarily the wage that's the issue. It's the classroom size. Because if I pay you $100,000 and you got 30 kids in your class,
oh no,
you're not spending the appropriate amount of time. It's a span of control. I mean, just look at business. In business, we say you shouldn't have any more than 12 to 14 people under your supervision, because you honestly can't supervise them. Right? But yet we're asking teachers to have classroom sizes of 20, 25, 30 plus kids in their classroom. And for early young learners, they need more hands-on support. So I rather pay a teacher $60,000 with great benefits, right? And have a classroom size of 12.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right? Because then a teacher's not getting burnt out. For every single kid that they do, that's more papers that they have to grade. That's the curriculum, they have to move fast. So as a student, if you don't get it, guess what? They have to keep moving on. So you get lost in the education system. Make smaller classrooms, provide other supports that provides equity into learning, but that's supporting the teacher. So that way the teacher can say, I have the tools that I can implement for George to have those visuals that he needs, compared to someone else that might not need those visuals. right?
So
But I can
we're
manage
saying,
that because it's a smaller classroom size.
so we're saying smaller classroom size, minimum salary, let's say 65, and then they can merit up to maybe six
Absolutely.
figures. That's a
Absolutely.
good approach. And I think that's doable.
Mhm.
And this is the kind of stuff that the Democrats should be on, because
Exactly.
then it wouldn't matter if I'm in the inner city, right?
Mhm.
And I have a law enforcement is living in that city, in that area, because in that zip code, because he's on some kind of special housing program where he moves to the inner city, and we have great education. It doesn't. Everyone is equitable at that point, for the most part. But
Absolutely.
they got to step up, and they have to do something. They have to come up with some plans, because the one thing that the Republicans do, you're going to get bigger tax money back. They're clear on what their plans are. It may just not be for everyone else, but they're clear on what their plans are. And I just feel like the Democrats, they got a lot of work to do. But we're going to see what happens in the midterm, and then we're going to come back after the midterms and follow back up and see what happened. Hopefully it'll be something positive.
Absolutely. The Democrats definitely need a plan.
George. Yeah, they definitely need a plan. Well, we gave them a lot of plan and a lot of options here. So I'm about, I tell you, I'm about solutions. And I think we solved law enforcement. We came up with solutions for immigration. We came up with solutions for education. Smart people should be listening to this podcast, and you and I, and saying, okay, let's play that and see how that works out in the focus groups.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on.
So much. Thank you. It was so much fun. And I learned a lot. And that's what we're all about here at All Americanish: learning, sharing, growing, just looking out for each other.